Oh hey guys, Sean Don is back, and today we're going over the lifestyle and nutrition basics you need to do to get shredded and improve performance. Just like my last video, this is a brief review of the blog that I wrote on this topic. For a more in-depth look, go check the blog out. It'll be linked up here in the upper right-hand corner. Go look down in the description box below if you can't find that. And just a disclaimer, before we get into this video, I am not a doctor, nor do I claim to give medical advice of any kind. Before making any dietary changes on your own, please speak with a doctor or registered dietitian, which is that's not me, but just saying. I don't want you guys to hurt yourself at all. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me post a rarely seen transformation photo from before and after my off-season diet. This sparked a lot of questions from you guys, asking things like, oh, can you send me your diet plan? Or is a ketogenic diet right for me? Or do I have to fast to lose weight and look like you? And a bunch of other stuff that overall just made me feel slightly uncomfortable. Not because I didn't have the knowledge to answer the questions or that I didn't want to help out, but rather because I'm not a nutritional expert. I'm a bro who does his research, I guess, but not a registered dietitian by trade. And the vast majority of people that are asking me these questions didn't understand the more basic concepts of nutrition, like calorie balance, for example, let alone what the ideal macronutrient ratios are for a ketogenic diet, if you even understand what I'm saying at this point. I don't know. Rather than outlining my off-season diet, I wanted to review some of my lifestyle and nutritional basics to help learn you guys a thing or two before we dive into the deep end. So, let's get into it. The basics. What are they? Anyone interested in improving body composition, aka getting big, getting jacked, getting shredded, I am none of those things, is usually on the lookout for the newest, shiniest diet or supplement or gadget or whatever it is to help them achieve their goals. But those things, they largely don't work. And they won't help you get the 8-pack abs in 12 days that they advertise, and even if they do, they won't help you keep those abs or keep your ideal body if your basic lifestyle and nutritional habits still suck outside of that diet or that exercise routine or whatever it might be. And when it comes down to it, getting the body of your dreams or achieving anything of great importance really comes down to the same thing: hard, smart work performed over a long period of time. That's all it is. Anything that promises you a shortcut or a cheat code to achieving some sort of dream is probably a scam. And even if it's not, achieving your goals by taking shortcuts kind of takes all the fun out of the whole process. There's really no more fulfilling feeling than when you achieve a goal the right way, through hard work. It just makes that feeling of accomplishment just that much sweeter, and you enjoy it and relish in it just that much more because you know you did it the right way. So what's the right way to lose weight and get the body that you've always wanted? First off, like I said, it comes down to the basics. Probably the least sexy thing you'll hear me say ever on this channel, ever. So the basics, things like eating healthy and in moderation, sleeping well, hydrating appropriately, and managing stress, are all things that everyone wants to skip over and insist that they are doing correctly. That way they feel justified in trying out the newest gadget or fad diet to help them get ripped. So we all know that sleeping 8 hours a night, eating some fruits and veggies, and drinking plenty of water is good for us and will help us achieve the body we want, but yet most people I know struggle to perform these actions on a daily basis. They lack the discipline to follow through with these actions even when conditions are not ideal. That being said, you need to sit down and audit your life. Objectively review your actions and habits on a day-to-day basis and ask yourself, are my actions in alignment with my goals? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's up to you. You got to figure that out. If you want to get in better shape, you have to ask yourself, is going out every weekend, getting plastered drunk with my friends, and eating fast food at 3 a.m. going to help you achieve those goals? Probably not. Definitely not. Especially if you're in any sort of performance field like track and field or sports or whatever. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. And it takes a lot of gumption and self-awareness and mental wherewithal to kind of take a step back and admit that your life is not as perfect or in order as you would like it to be. It's actually quite uncomfortable, to be fair. But just like somebody who joins a 12-step program, the first step to getting better is acknowledging and admitting that you have a problem. The acknowledgement of your shortcomings in daily life opens up a realm of possibilities to improve your quality of life. So take a step back, admit that you could do better, and you will do better. So the basics. Part 1. Nutrition, aka food quality and macronutrient intake. There are two foundational concepts that play a huge role in achieving your ideal body composition. The first one is eating whole, natural, unprocessed foods, and the second one being monitoring caloric intake and macronutrient intake. The first concept is largely understood, at least I'd like to imagine, while the second one is a little bit more foreign, especially to those who have never taken a course in nutrition. So like I said, the first concept of food quality, whole foods over processed foods, I'd like to think that's straightforward. It's pretty easy to understand. The majority of your caloric intake should come from whole foods, not fast food or other processed junk. You should be eating primarily fruits and veggies and lean meats and healthy fats and complex carbohydrates. And there's plenty of good information out there on the internet about this topic that is full of actionable, helpful information. Like I said, I'm not a registered dietitian, but I like to imagine that at least some point in time we might have heard to stay away from things that come in like plastic wrappers, or maybe even shop the edges of the grocery store, stuff like that. Just little tips that you can use to help make your diet that much more successful. And like I said, I think it's straightforward. I think we all know that chicken and broccoli and sweet potatoes is going to be better for us than a frozen pizza. Just use some good judgment. So the second concept is hard for people to put into practice. Determining macros can be a complex topic, and tracking them can be a daunting task, even for those with a background in exercise science and nutrition. But hopefully I can simplify it enough for you guys. So step 1, calorie is a calorie is a calorie for the most part. So just because a food is healthy doesn't mean you can eat as much as you want of it and still expect to lose weight. When it comes to changing your body composition, it all comes back to calorie balance. What does that mean? Calories consumed, aka calories in, or the food you eat every day, versus the calories you expend, or the calories out. The calories burned throughout the day through normal bodily functions, physical activity, and exercise. That is the calorie balance equation. On one side you have all the food you eat, and on the other side you have all the calories that you burn. If the calorie balance equation is balanced, meaning calories in is equal to calories out, you should maintain body weight. If your calories consumed are greater than your calories expended, aka you're eating more food than you are expending in calories, this is called a caloric surplus and will likely lead to weight gain. Conversely, if your calories consumed are less than your calories expended, this is called a caloric deficit and should lead to losing weight. Basically, if you're trying to lose or gain weight and you don't know how many calories you are taking in on a day-to-day basis, if you don't know if you're in a caloric deficit or caloric surplus for sure, it might make sense as to why you're not seeing the results that you want to see. So what can be measured can be managed, and by measuring your caloric intake, you can be much more accurate and precise in achieving your goals in your ideal body composition. Step 2. How many calories should you be eating each day? For the average person, the best thing to do is use a Total Daily Energy Expenditure Calculator, or TDEE. It's an estimation equation based on your age and height, weight, activity levels, and even body composition if you have an accurate way of measuring this. You put in all these numbers and it figures out your total daily energy expenditure, or TDEE as I already said, and it's not 100% accurate, but it gives a great starting point and lets you know approximately how many calories you should be taking in to maintain your body weight. So for me personally, a 25-year-old, 6'1" male who weighs about 230 pounds at about 14% body fat, and during my off-season diet I was relatively sedentary, so that's what I'll choose for my activity level. Based on my TDEE calculation, I should be eating approximately 2,770 calories if I want to maintain my body weight. So based on the whole calories in, calories out idea, if you eat the same number of calories as your total daily energy expenditure, you should maintain your weight. If your goal is to maintain your weight, your ideal caloric intake is the exact same as your total daily energy expenditure. Pretty straightforward. But if you want to lose weight, you need to create a caloric deficit. So take your total daily energy expenditure number and subtract 300 to 500 calories, and this is how many calories you should aim to consume each day if you want to lose weight. And this is a modest starting point. If your TDEE estimation is correct and you're accurately tracking your caloric intake, you should lose approximately 1 to 2 pounds per week in an ideal scenario. If you're losing weight faster than that, slightly increase your caloric intake, that way you don't lose too much muscle along the dieting process. If you aren't losing weight or even gaining weight, reassess your TDEE estimation and caloric intake. So maybe you aren't exercising as hard as you think, so your activity levels are too high for the equation, or maybe you're actually eating more calories than you are tracking. I don't know. Also, if your basic lifestyle habits are sort of out of whack, that can make losing weight very hard. Like I said, we're going to review those later, but just keep that in mind and make sure you have those things down pat before you just drop calories drastically through the floor. But like I said, if all those things check out, if your TDEE is correct, if your calorie tracking is correct, if your lifestyle is correct, then consider decreasing calories by another 300 to 500 until you are losing weight at the ideal pace, like I said, 1 to 2 pounds per week. I will take 2,770 and subtract 300 from it for 2,470 calories to be consumed each day to help me drop weight. I like to start on the lower end as I want to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, and typically I drop weight pretty quickly. This also gives me more room to subtract calories later on in a diet when I hit a plateau. So just think slow and steady wins the race rather than just cutting your calories in half from the start. Slowly whittle your way down and you'll maintain more muscle mass. It'll be easier to adhere to the diet. So I will consume this new caloric intake for 3 to 4 weeks or until weight loss plateaus as a result of metabolic adaptation. Once it does, I need to create a larger caloric deficit by increasing my TDEE through increasing physical activity or decreasing the amount of calories I'm eating each day, or a combination of the two if you're into that kind of thing. Once again, limiting the caloric deficit at each stage of a diet to about 300 to 500 calories is ideal for long-term progress. The process could be repeated for anywhere from 12 to 16 weeks. After that time period, even if your weight loss goals aren't achieved just yet, take a break from the diet and slowly reintroduce calories over the following 12 to 16 weeks. Over time, especially if your calories drop too low and your expenditure is too high, you can create some metabolic or hormonal damage, so keep that in mind. Taking a break from your diet and adding calories back in, which is formally called a reverse diet, will help restore metabolism and limit weight regain, helping prime the body for any following weight loss diets. Kind of think of this as taking one step back to take 3 steps forward. And this entire process of losing weight through caloric deficit applies similarly to gaining weight as well, except instead you will focus on creating a caloric surplus instead of that deficit. So you'll add calories over time. So step 3, optimizing your body composition using macros. So when it comes to changing your body composition, calorie balance should be number 1. Closely followed by that though is monitoring your macronutrient intake. So what is a macronutrient? Technically, it is a substance required in large amounts by a living organism. For us human beings, that means protein and fat and carbohydrates. Those are our macronutrients. What's the importance of macronutrients? Well, while maintaining a caloric deficit can help you lose weight, monitoring protein, fat, and carbohydrate intake will help optimize the changes in your body composition. Adequate intake of your macronutrients will help maximize fat loss and muscle gain while providing you with proper energy throughout the day for all your activities, whatever they may be. A balanced intake of all 3 macronutrients is usually a good place to start when trying to change your body composition. I know ketogenic diet, low carb diets are all the fad currently, but like I said, start with the basics, work your way up. Important to note for later on, protein and carbohydrates are worth 4 calories per gram, while fat is worth 9 calories per gram. This information comes into play later on, but keep that in mind. Step 4, figuring out your macros on the fly. I guess in a way, that's one way to put it. Step 4.1, protein.
Protein rocks. Protein.
So eating the adequate amount of protein will help build and maintain lean body mass. Personally, I like to start with 1 gram per pound of body mass. So for me being 230 pounds, I aim to eat 230 grams of protein each day. That means 920 of my 2,470 calories of each day will be ingested via protein. Step 4.2, carbs and fats. That leaves 1,550 calories to be split up between carbs and fats, aka 2,470 minus 920. You're left over with 1,550. So like I said, that's split up between carbs and fats. Most people recommend a 60-40 split, favoring whichever of the macronutrients are your favorite. For me, I prefer a higher fat diet because I find it to be more satiating, and I find on a high carb diet can kind of leave me feeling bloated and sluggish, but maybe that's just the gluten that I used to eat. I don't know. So personally, I choose 60% fat, 40% carbs. Like I said, it's up to you. Play around with different ratios and see what works best for you. And try not to go too extreme to one side or the other, for both fat and carbs are vital for maintaining stable energy throughout the day. So 60% of 1,550 is 930 calories. I will divide that by 9, aka how many calories are in a gram of fat. This helps me determine how many grams of fat I will eat each day, leaving me with 103 grams of fat for my proposed macros. So the remaining 620 calories will be left for carbohydrates, and I will divide that number by 4, once again how many calories are in a gram of carbohydrates, leaving me with 155 grams of carbs to eat each day. So my final macros are 230 grams protein, 155 grams carbs, and 103 grams fat. Like I said, I'll try to hit these numbers every day within 5 grams on either side. You don't need to be spot on all the time. You don't need to be anal because things will balance out over time. And as the diet progresses and caloric intake decreases, I will adjust macros accordingly. Protein will more or less stay the same, while I will reduce my carbs and fats to fit my overall caloric needs as the diet progresses. So meaning I will eat less and less carbs and fats throughout the diet, but protein will always more or less stay the same. So step 5, tracking macros and calories. How the hell do I do that? So like I said, tracking macros is not easy. It can be daunting, but it's worth it because it holds you accountable, making your goals that much easier to reach. I recommend using MyFitnessPal. Personally, I use My Macros Plus, but I pay for that. You log all the foods you eat throughout the day, scanning barcodes or using the search function. However you do it, doesn't matter, and it adds up for you. When I'm tracking macros, I'll measure nearly everything that I put into my body. It can be tedious, but the results are 100% worth it. Like I said, what can be measured can be managed. I prefer to use a food scale, measuring things in the amount that I eat them, meaning grams. Liquid, solids, doesn't matter. All measured in grams. That's just how I do it. Personally, that's how I stay consistent. So, eyeballing things can be inaccurate, while using standard measuring cups and things of that nature can have a large margin of error. So when I'm preparing a meal, I will weigh out, let's say if I want 8 ounces of chicken breast, I will weigh out 224 grams, or 8 ounces of chicken breast, and then log that into my app by scanning the barcode on the packaging and inputting the appropriate amount. So 8 ounces of chicken breast has approximately 70 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, and 0 carbs. And keep in mind, the weight of a food is not the same as the macro content of that food. If you're looking to eat 20 grams of carbs and you want to eat an apple, that does not mean you just get to eat 20 grams worth of apple, which would literally be like one slice of apple. That'd be nothing. But rather you determine the amount of apple you get to eat based on its macro content. 100 grams of apple is approximately 14 grams of carbs and like very trace fat and protein, like less than a gram. If you want to eat 20 grams of carbs, you would take the carbohydrate amount of the serving size and do some good old cross multiply and divide. 14 grams of carbs are in 100 grams of apple, and you're looking to figure out how much apple you need to eat 20 grams. So 20 grams of carbs over X grams of apple. You take 100 times 20 divided by 14, and it comes out to 142 grams of apple. So you would weigh out 142 grams of apple, you would eat that, and that would still only be, it'd probably be about one medium-sized apple. So that 142 grams of apple would yield the 20 grams of carbohydrates that you are looking for. It's also important to log the trace amount of fats and proteins in addition to the carbohydrate content. For most foods are not just one macronutrient, and if you exclude these less predominant nutrients, or these trace nutrients, they can add up and make maintaining that caloric deficit and losing weight that much harder, but also make gaining weight that much easier if you're into that kind of thing. I don't know. And now this is just a really brief overview of tracking macros. There are much more thorough articles out there. I suggest you try a Google search. There's plenty of solid information out there on the internet. I'd say my favorite resource regarding all things macros and reverse dieting is Dr. Lane Norton, while my favorite overall resource for learning about the foundational aspects of nutrition is Renaissance Periodization. Both sources provide plenty of useful information, so go check out their sites. But moving on to lifestyle. So like I said earlier, outside of those nutritional basics, your basic lifestyle habits play a huge part in achieving your body composition goals. So primarily, I focus most of my efforts around sleep, hydration, and stress management. Usually if I do those 3 things well, I'm feeling pretty good, and sticking to a diet is easy and I see good results. Number 1, sleep. As we all know, sleep is crucial for helping you recover from training, help you build up that muscle and repair tissues and all that other stuff. So for good sleep, what should you do? Every day you should go to bed at a decent time. You should get at least 8 hours of sleep and probably wake up shortly after the sun rises to help normalize your circadian rhythm. Staying up past 10 p.m. is just really unnecessary for the most part, because after this time, most people are just watching Netflix or scrolling through social media, playing video games, doing stuff that is not beneficial whatsoever. Shut that stuff off by 9 p.m. Instead of watching Netflix or scrolling through your phone, try doing some easy stretching or meditation by candlelight, take a warm bath, read a good book. Just unplug and let your mind relax. Once you establish your own bedtime routine that works for you, you'll have no trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, and your body and mind will thank you. If you're interested in seeing my bedtime routine, drop a comment down below and let me know, and I'll turn that into a video, because I think I've done one of my morning routine videos, I think, before. Moving on. Hydration is number 2. Lifestyle basics. I feel like this should be straightforward once again. Water is arguably the most important resource that we need to be intaking on a daily basis. So a decent recommendation would be to consume your body weight in ounces of water. So for me, being 230 pounds, once again, I try to consume about 230 ounces of water each day, especially since I'm very active and I'm training twice per day. Another good recommendation would be to just drink when you're thirsty. Your body is smart enough to know when you do or do not need to drink more water. So listen to your body, but also don't drink a bunch of other shit that isn't water when you're thirsty. Drink real water. So like, as for other beverages, just try to cut them out. Most beverages outside of water are pretty much unnecessary calories. Start drinking your coffee black, skip out on the milkshakes and sports drinks and sodas. Even the low or no calorie versions for aspartame can actually negatively impact the gut microbiome. Food for thought. And sports drinks are largely overrated in my opinion, unless you are training hard multiple times per day and for some reason couldn't stomach the volume of food needed to properly fuel your body. And as for alcohol, just stay away from it. Sure, you can have 1 to 2 drinks occasionally and let loose, but deep down we all know alcohol is bad for us. There's no better way to destroy a week's worth of training and dieting than going out on a Saturday night and staying up till 4 a.m. Like I said, getting plastered drunk, eating fast food, enough to feed a family of 4 perhaps. I'm a better man now, but trust me, I know from experience, just don't do it. And the second to last lifestyle basic, stress management. A big limiting factor for most people that they don't realize affects their ability to optimize body composition is stress. So whether it's mental, emotional, physical stress, stress can signal the body to release cortisol. And chronically elevated cortisol levels, or being chronically stressed, is associated with a number of health risks such as heart disease, diabetes, and can lead to muscle breakdown and fat gain. These high levels of cortisol may also lead to stress eating, which I'm great at doing. And this is a great way to pack on the pounds, because when we do stress eat, we tend to go for more of the calorie-dense food choices to kind of help ease our stress-related symptoms, whether they're mental, emotional, or physical, whatever. Eating those delicious foods makes you feel good. At least that's me, personally. Having a consistent routine to help de-stress is crucial for limiting the release of cortisol, helping the body rest and recover more efficiently, meaning more muscle mass gained over the long term. So for me, my go-tos are meditation, yoga, deep breathing, massages, and occasionally video games if I'm feeling like really burnt out and just like complete toast. So I try to meditate for 10 minutes each morning using the Headspace app, and then I try to do some form of easy stretching while focusing on diaphragmatic breathing each day after training to get my body in that parasympathetic rest and digest state to help the recovery processes get kicking. And since this video is probably way too long by now, which my videos always are, because I just love to be so thorough, go over to my blog to read up on the last lifestyle basic of goal setting. Once again, the link is up here in the corner or down in the description. Goal setting is important. Go read it. Conclusion: if you can properly employ these lifestyle and nutritional basics for the duration of a diet, so for months, 3-4 months is all it takes, I have no doubt in my mind that you'll be so much closer to your ideal body than you ever could have imagined. Doing the basics well is not that quick, sexy solution, but it works and it's the right thing to do. Like I said, it's much more fulfilling and it's much more sustainable and long term. The less excuses you make for yourself, the less bullshit justifications you create, telling yourself that your current less than optimal situation and habits are okay, the better off you will be. People complain about not seeing the results they want when it comes to diet and nutrition, yet they aren't honest with themselves, at least honest enough to admit that their diet and lifestyle is suboptimal. No special diet or supplement or workout routine will get you the body that you want, but rather you just need to work hard and smart for months on end. If you do that, you're more than likely going to achieve your goals, or at least get much closer and be in a much better spot than if you were to use some shortcut. Over the past year, I've nailed down these habits and they're kind of like second nature to me now. Mastering these actions alone, I guess, since I've been at the training center has helped me put on 10 pounds of lean body mass, which I was surprised to see. And then they also made adhering to my off-season diet that much easier because I was getting enough sleep, I was hydrating properly, I was making all the right food choices, I was tracking calories, all that stuff. I had the discipline to do the basics right before taking on more advanced challenges. Just keep that in mind. Hopefully you guys got a good idea of how to track your macros and caloric intake and what you need to do outside of dieting and training to make your lifestyle better so that way you can achieve your ideal body composition. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a like. And if you guys even found the slightest bit of value in it, all I ask is that you just share it with one friend. Just one friend. Just send them the link. Easy. So subscribe if you haven't already. So thank you guys. Until next time, Sean Don. Peace now.